They say a wedding is supposed to be the happiest day of your life, the day everything finally comes together. But in the small town of Maple Creek, Pennsylvania, the day Sarah Lawson was supposed to marry David Harper turned into something else entirely. By the time the sun rose the next morning, there was no wedding, no bride, and no one in town would ever speak of that day again. Sarah Lawson had always been the kind of woman who brought light into every room she entered. She was the town's beloved kindergarten teacher, kind, gentle, endlessly patient, and everyone adored her. Her fiancé, David Harper, was the complete opposite. Confident, ambitious, a lawyer from Philadelphia who had moved back home to take care of his late father's estate. Together, they seemed like a perfect match, her heart and his drive balancing each other out in all the right ways. After 2 years of dating, David proposed to Sarah on the pier behind her parents' lake house, right where they'd had their first date. The town of Maple Creek practically buzzed with excitement. Invitations went out. The church bells were scheduled to ring, and by mid-June, the entire town was ready for the wedding of the year. But what nobody knew was that beneath the smiles, the flower arrangements, and the champagne flutes, secrets were slowly unraveling. It started small. Sarah began noticing changes in David. Late-night phone calls he wouldn't explain, trips to Philadelphia that he said were for work, but didn't quite line up. A growing sense of distance between them. Then, one night just 2 weeks before the wedding, Sarah's maid of honor, Emily, came over with something she didn't want to say out loud. She'd been out for dinner in the next town over, and had seen David there, with another woman. Sarah laughed it off at first. "You must have been mistaken," she said. "He told me he was visiting his cousin." But Emily wasn't mistaken. She had taken a picture. The image on her phone showed David sitting across from a tall brunette, holding her hand in a dimly lit restaurant. Sarah stared at that photo until her hands shook. Her first instinct was to confront him, but she didn't. Not right away. Instead, she tried to act normal, waiting for him to tell her the truth. He never did. As the wedding day approached, Sarah's anxiety grew unbearable. Every night, she sat by the window of her small apartment, staring at her wedding dress hanging in the corner, a symbol of everything she thought she knew, and everything she now doubted. Then, 1 week before the ceremony, she made a discovery that changed everything. While helping David pack up boxes for their future home, she found a small black notebook in his office drawer, half hidden beneath some legal documents. Inside were handwritten notes, lists of names, bank account numbers, and something that looked like coded transactions. At the bottom of one page was a chilling line written in his unmistakable handwriting. Sarah L. Insurance, finalize after 6/22. Their wedding date. Sarah froze. Her mind spun. Was this just a coincidence? Was it something related to his law firm? Or was it something far darker? That night she called Emily, whispering through tears. "I think something's wrong with David. I think he's planning something." Emily wanted to go straight to the police, but Sarah wasn't ready. She needed proof. Real proof. So the two friends devised a plan. Sarah would act normal until the wedding day. Meanwhile, Emily would dig into David's background, his recent trips, and any connections that could explain the mysterious notebook. 3 days passed, then Emily called, her voice trembling. "Sarah, I found something. You're not going to like it." She had traced one of the bank account numbers to a shell company in Philadelphia, a company that had received a large insurance payout 6 months earlier after a woman named Hannah Lee, reportedly David's ex-girlfriend, had died in a car crash. The payout had been directed to a trust managed by David Harper. Sarah's stomach turned. The pattern was clear now. A relationship, a tragic accident, an insurance payout. And now she was next. Still, she couldn't just run. If she disappeared, David might come after her. The safest way out was to expose him. But she had to play along until she could collect evidence. The night before the wedding, Sarah met secretly with Detective Mark Renshaw, a friend of Emily's cousin who worked with the state police. She handed him the notebook, the photos, and everything she had. Renshaw agreed to attend the wedding undercover, just in case things went wrong. June 22nd, the day the whole town had been waiting for. The church was decorated in white and gold. Guests filled the pews. The string quartet played softly as Sarah stepped out of the bridal car in her lace gown, her heart pounding not with joy, but with fear. David stood at the altar, handsome as ever, smiling that same confident smile that had once made her feel safe. As she walked down the aisle, her hands trembled around the bouquet. Every step felt heavier. When she finally reached him, he leaned forward and whispered, "You look beautiful, perfect, just like I imagined." Something in his tone sent a chill down her spine. The ceremony began. Vows, laughter, the soft murmur of the crowd. But just as the priest said the words, "If anyone has reason these two should not be joined," a loud crash echoed through the church doors. Detective Renshaw burst in, followed by 2 officers. "David Harper, you're under arrest for insurance fraud, conspiracy, and suspected homicide." Gasps filled the room. David turned pale, his jaw tightening. He grabbed Sarah's wrist and hissed, "What did you do?" Before she could answer, he pushed her aside and bolted down the aisle. Chaos erupted. Guests screamed. The band stopped playing. Renshaw and his team chased him out the side doors. Outside, David jumped into a waiting car, but it was boxed in by police vehicles. Cornered, he tried to run, but Renshaw tackled him to the ground. The entire scene was captured by bystanders on their phones. The wedding of the year became a national headline within hours. When the police searched David's home, they found more notebooks, with details of multiple staged accidents, insurance policies, and fake identities. It turned out that David had been part of a criminal network that used romantic relationships to stage accidental deaths for insurance profit. Sarah had almost become his next target. In the weeks that followed, Maple Creek went quiet. The church stayed closed for months. Sarah left town, moving to a small coastal village in Maine to start over. People would sometimes see her walking along the shore at sunrise, holding a cup of coffee and staring at the horizon. Those who knew her said she looked peaceful now, lighter, freer. Emily stayed her closest friend, visiting often. And sometimes they'd laugh about how life had other plans, how Sarah's perfect wedding had never happened, and how that might have been the best thing that ever happened to her. One autumn afternoon, she received a letter from Detective Renshaw. Inside was a simple note. "Case closed. You saved yourself, and maybe others too. Stay safe, Sarah." She folded the letter, smiled faintly, and whispered to herself, "Some weddings aren't meant to happen, because some vows were never real. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it probably is. Love should never make you afraid." The wedding that never happened wasn't a tragedy. It was a narrow escape, a story of strength, and a reminder that behind even the brightest smiles, shadows can hide. If you found this story gripping, share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if you were in Sarah's place? Would you have gone through with the wedding? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more dark fictional crime stories and realistic suspense narratives just like this. Your support helps keep stories like this alive.